Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 10 Minute RGM. I'm your host, Oko Hitteding, and today I'm joined by Gurkan. Gurkan, would you like to introduce yourself shortly?
Yep, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Gurkan Munsuz with McCain Foods. I've had the privilege of being in RGM. I would say by accident for a long time now. I've got background in commercial strategy, analytics, trade marketing, but now leading the global team for McCain Foods.
Well, thanks for joining us. I think you bring a wide history of RGM and CPG with you, so curious to have this conversation. All right, I'll start with my classic first question. Over the next 12 months, which RGM trends will matter the most for your business, and where will you focus your team's efforts?
That's a great question, and it's one where we have to be in tune with kind of how the market is shifting. If we take a look at the last 2, 3 years, a lot of the top line in the industry was delivered by pricing activity. But that also has led to a huge shift in consumer behavior. So now think of it as, going back to the basics of how do we bring a balanced growth algorithm to within CPG. And that's where the CPG industry is looking at the right RGM cues. So the focus will be how do we truly build volume and be able to extract the right value of that volume. So that balance of volume and the price mix is going to be very, very critical. Where my teams are going to focus on is making sure that we're understanding the occasion, how to be able to truly understand how we serve the consumers, how we provide value to the customers, but also how we're able to orchestrate the right level of penetration through the occasion, but also the occasion economics to make sure we're delivering the margin for the organization.
I think that's one that's not being called out enough, the occasion-based roles that packs and prices and promotional activities and everything plays. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that, let's say, occasion-based approach links in with the classical RGM levers? Like, what's the approach you're taking or your team is taking on that?
As you think about how to deliver the volume, right? The volume is basically a function of either population, penetration, or frequency, or in this case, occasions. So being able to understand how to deliver what I would say affordability activation is important for the low income consumers. Along the flip side, we're also seeing, quite a bit of premiumization in the industry too. So where we would focus on from an occasion perspective is how do we set the right pricing structure to create an OPP, or at the same time, how do we have the right price ladders within our portfolio to ensure that not only we're setting up the OPP right, but also how we're building up to the premium part while also maintaining a very good in the middle, the mainstream portion. If you combine that with also the promotional piece too, how are you giving the right cues to the consumer in being able to premiumize your products? Premium doesn't necessarily mean expensive. So it's all about how we combine, whether that's packaging, whether that's ingredients, whether that's communication or the promotion tactics of how we achieve that premiumization too. So our teams are working hard to ensure that not only we have the right price points in the market, but also how we're communicating value through the different levers. Again, whether packaging, whether that's communications, or whether it's the promo tactics. Combining all of those will give us the ability to be able to deliver the right volume within the right occasion.
Would you say your team is also involved relatively early in terms of the product life cycle, making, let's say, joint plans together with marketing about a new product, that should play a certain role for a certain occasion, right? A value pack being bigger or a premium one having extra call out on the packaging. How's the collaboration in that sense?
And you said the key word there, the collaboration is very, very critical. Our GM teams inevitably work in a very cross-functional environment. Ability to talk to the marketing teams, the finance teams, the sales teams, the supply chain teams is very important to ensure that we're creating a holistic view of the market by connecting the right dots. The way we're setting up our teams to be able to provide value within the marketing teams is also how you connect the brand strategy into a way to be able to activate the right price promo plans and also communicate that to the retailers. So if it's on the innovation to ensure that we understand the consumer's willingness to pay and have the right pricing points to be able to truly deliver value for the consumer and the customer, to be able to get the highest penetration for ourselves too. That's one way we're working with the teams, but also understanding how we can benchmark against what's happening in the markets by being very much in tune with the right cues that you're picking up from the category. But the other part that I would also add is one of the big changes that we're seeing in the market that's play out is the interactivity between the different categories. So it's no longer just relevant to focus only on your own category, but think of it as a different platform. So that way you're understanding what price points are able to provide value for the consumers, but also it doesn't necessarily have to be within your own category. Think of it as you're seeing the shift in the consumer where the consumer is saying, I have a hard cap of certain amount of cash within an occasion. So how much not only you have to pay to your category, but also what are some of the other adjacent categories that happen to be in that occasion, and how to ensure that you're providing the right pricing so that the consumer is able to afford an entire meal or the different solutions that they're looking for.
I like it. Does that then also translate into more cross-brand or cross-category activations in store? When you say, for example, consumer-based, right? A consumer being interested in buying crisps at the same time as beer, let's say. Classic example.
Absolutely.
So you also deep dive on those learnings.
And that's where, again, it goes back to the cross-sectional or the cross-functional need for RGM to be able to understand that. As the consumer, if the consumer landscape is evolving, where it's no longer just about how your category is providing value, but also, as you pointed out, how it is able to do cross-merchandising to provide meal solutions for the consumers, especially within the food and beverage space, right? It's no longer just about your category, but it's about the ability to provide the right solutions by also partnering with other manufacturers to provide a meal solution for the consumers, again, in the price points and the budget cap that they're looking for.
Okay. And then it becomes more revenue growth management for the category as well, which is what most of the retailers are looking for, right? What's the growth story for the whole category, not just you as a supplier. Another question. Which RGM capability has become essential for your team? Something that you were not prioritizing as much 2 or 3 years ago?
The occasion-based or the OBPPC part has really become very, very prominent. After, again, years of inflation, it's about understanding how do we drive the right penetration within the organization. So it's not so much that we weren't focusing on it, but the trends and also the need at that time was, how do you protect the economics of the business? And majority of the way that was done was through list price increases. Inevitably, that ran out of room in the sense that, we've hit some ceilings where the consumer was no longer willing to pay. And our retailer partners also got tired of having to continually reflect the prices in the market too. So the occasion-based pricing now, or the price pack architecture, is now, again, all about how are we able to do multiple things, whether that's affordability activation or whether that's premiumization, or how we manage the price gaps within our portfolios, or with the rise of private label to how we're able to reflect all of those at once. So it's making sure that you're focusing on the right trends, you're focusing on the right behaviors to be able to sustain the penetration and category run rates.
And then looking forward, if you had to make one bold prediction about RGM 5 years from now, what would it be and why?
The different enablers that we're seeing right now, and specifically AI, I believe gives us a very different runway than, how I might have answered that question a few years ago. One of the things that we're still in need of doing within RGM, and not just within RGM, right? I mean, within the CPG spaces, how do we go from understanding the past demands to how do we make demands? So going from demand sensing to more about how prescriptively we can build the right demand for ourselves. I think artificial intelligence and the tools and the efficiency that we're getting through AI will help enable us to do that in a much different way than how we're operating right now. If you look at right now, price threshold chart, it is backwards looking. It's about understanding which price points in the market that you've executed work. But now we have the ability to be able to do conjoint analysis and do more forward-looking analysis and understand what are the different attributes the consumer is willing to pay for. We now have the ability, or will have the ability, to do better than just looking at past historical trends in just units, to now being able to tie it into penetration, but do it in such a larger way that you're doing it in micro occasions, whether that's the different parts of the category that you're willing to fulfill, the right occasions. And that difference is what's going to truly make the big difference for us.
I'm also, to be honest, very, very curious and excited to see where we are going in this space. Things are being developed so fast, right? And the amount of insights that are being unlocked and the speed of which is just incredible. It's just gonna accelerate from here exponentially.
And that, exponential acceleration you talked about, right? I mean, it literally will take us from how do we optimize pricing and promo to how do we truly algorithmically shape demand behavior. So that is also going to be how our GM teams will continue to deliver further value within the organization. Having said that, that's also going to change the trajectory of our GM in the sense that it no longer will be about a function that might be sitting in different parts of the organization, but more of a discipline and critical thinking in how the organizations truly are able to approach their commercial strategy.
Definitely. It's about breaking silos and enabling everybody in an organization to have a bit of an RGM mindset and insights.
Yes.
Another question. What is one lesson you've learned early on in your career that still shapes the way you approach RGM today?
I've had the great fortune of working for some exceptional leaders and some very great mentors who told me many, many things. I mean, the couple that I have taken to heart is, one is never be a purist. It's never just about one KPI, or it's not about making the decision just based on one criteria. So when you're a purist, right, I mean, the ability to combine art and the science in the work that we do is very, very important. And if you approach the decision-making through the lens of a purist and you just take only the science or you just take only the art, will truly not be able to get us to the optimal answer. The second thing that I've really taken to heart over the years is indecision is the worst decision. Never wait till one piece of data or one piece of the decision criteria becomes clear, because when you expect full clarity, something else changes and therefore you're back to square one and you don't have full clarity. And then the last thing that I really believe is very important is how you're able to communicate in a clear, concise, and a compelling fashion. That clarity of how we communicate the learnings, what we do, and how it influences the rest of the decision makers is very critical.
Super powerful. Thanks. All right. I've run out of questions. What I would just like to ask you last is to understand who or what kind of person would you like to see in our next episode? If you have any specific person in mind or any type of person or company or role, then feel free to share.
Look, I mean, for us to be an RGM, curiosity has to be absolutely top of mind. So for me, it's not. I mean, I love learning from anyone and everyone. So I don't know that I'd be able to give you one particular name of a person or a company, but there are so many wonderful leaders in the industry from an RGM perspective, and I'll absolutely tune in regardless to make sure that, you know, I'm bringing my learning hat and the curiosity to hear what they have to say and see, you know, how I can get myself and my team to be better.
I'm sure we'll find one of those great leaders that are.
No doubt, no doubt.
Have a few more in the pipeline. Great. Thanks a lot, Gurkan. It was very valuable. I got very nice insights, and I keep learning as well. Keep staying, interested and curious. So thanks for the input.
Thanks, Oko. I really appreciate the partnership, and also thank you for the opportunity to come on this recording.